560 The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all else. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
Hundreds of billions and billions and billions in the name of homelessness. It's interesting, this topic of homelessness. To have the right perspective, I think you need to be reminded of something.
We are now at a place called Highland Park in Detroit, and I mean, I've never seen so many industrial buildings, schools, hospitals, just all abandoned. It really does feel like a freaking war zone here. Like, no joke. It's like the government just said, hey, you're on your own. Like, straight up, like, honestly.
Illinois has 82 what's called ghost towns, completely developed. Buildings, commercial, residential, abandoned. Water hookups, there was electricity there. It's a lot, 82. Michigan has 100. California has 370 abandoned ghost towns. How come this is never brought up with the talk of homelessness? There's no money in it, that's why. My next guest knows this all too well. She spent 13 years as the CEO of Northern California's largest program for homeless women and children. She's a visiting fellow with the Discovery Institute's Fix Homelessness Initiative. She also is the CEO and founder of Free Up Foundation and author of Answers Behind the Red Door. Michele Steeb, how are you?
I'm doing well, Shaun. Thank you for having me back.
Well, it's a fascinating topic because, you know, it used to be that they called in the former Soviet Union or in Havana, Cuba, useful idiots that went along with the Communist Party. But what they all need is a crisis that they pretend to have an answer to, a secret answer, 5-year plan, 6-year plan, some sort of taxation on the rich. And it'll solve all the problems, yet everywhere this ideology, and Democrats specifically, are in charge, hundreds of billions of dollars is stolen in the name of the drug addicts, of the homeless, in the name of poverty, in the name of health care, in the name of reactions to crisis. So sooner or later, all the Americans have to catch up to the people who can spot the scam, don't they?
Yes, I think they are catching up. I mean, not just with their eyes, because they're all seeing the same cities we're seeing that are now like zombie lands. People are so sick, strung out, mentally ill, addicted. They're seeing the despair on these streets, the chaos of the streets. And they're also seeing the numbers finally from the federal government, right? We've been following an approach to homelessness over the last 12 years that President Obama promised would end homelessness in a decade. And we are now at the highest point ever in our nation's history, up almost 35%. And let me underscore another case study. California, the state of California, was the only state in the nation to actually follow the federal government in adopting this approach called Housing First. And I'll describe what it means here in a second. They adopted that statewide in 2016. Since they adopted that, homelessness has gone up almost 40% throughout the state of California. It has been a massive failure, and I'll explain to you why. Because the promise was, if we give everyone a house for life, they will become stable enough that they will choose to engage in services to help address their mental illness and help address their addiction, and to give them the skills to get jobs, they'll become so stable that they'll choose to do this. And you know what? The reality is they stay unstable in that housing. They isolate, which is a death knell for people struggling with addiction and mental illness. And they end up returning to the streets, even though they have this housing, because they miss their peeps. They miss their community that they formed on the streets or in encampments. It's been a massive failure. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to homelessness. And even if there was, giving people housing for life where they have no conditions to live there. They don't have to work ever. They don't have to be sober. They don't have to address their issues, again, often mental illness and addiction, and they can have this housing for life. And it's everyone sees it now. The numbers tell the same story. And thankfully, this administration is turning the ship in the right direction.
Well, it's the other thing, too, is it's fascinating how there really is no definition, or never has been, definition of a failed program. What's the definition of a failed program in government? Is there one? I mean, we have trillions of dollars that are missing in the name of everything from healthcare to homelessness to drug addiction to all the rest of it. And the reality is there's a certain lure to participate in this. They make it very easy for you to be a useless degenerate nowadays. And I'm going to tell you this. I say this to you as a kid. God, I can't remember. I wish I could remember the name of it. I think it was Bound for Glory. There's a book written in the 40s about a guy who rode the trains during the Dust Bowl of the Depression. And he was kind of a smart guy. It's not to the caliber of Mice and Men with the devious nature, but it's right up there, right? And he just wants to live his life and get his next meal and see America. And I'm going to tell you, as a kid, when you read that, you're like, oh, this might not be bad. And I will never forget, during the very beginning of the election cycle, right before COVID kicked in, there was a policy in California that would give you not only a smartphone at the time, because, 6 years ago, smartphones aren't what they are today. They weren't super accessible, but you got one in California. You got one, and to that smartphone, they gave you a Netflix subscription, and they gave you $700 a month in cash, and they gave you access to drugs and money. So there was a guy who had been a carpenter down in Florida who drove all the way to California. He's like, listen, I was making, $800, $900, $1,200 a month working my ass off. They give me the same amount of money, and I get everything for free. So they've lured people into the ideology of, oh, let's just ride the trains for a while. It'll be easy. And before you know it, time goes by, your life goes by, and they make it easy and accessible only if you are, in fact, hooked on drugs or you do suffer. So they lure you into the game of perpetual government servitude, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, people ask me often, why would they do this? I mean, people like Republican, Democrat, black, white, old, young, male, female, it does not matter. Gay, straight, they ask me all the time, why would they do this? It doesn't make sense to anyone. And the only answer, again, because they promised this would end homelessness, and now they're all standing behind the same failed approach. The only answer is they don't have a better answer, and they don't mind keeping people down versus uplifting them. I mean, suppressing. It's the most oppressive policy, I believe, of the 20th century to not help people regain their full human potential and regain independency.
So,
it's crazy.
Well, it is. You're absolutely right. But it's also brilliant if you're diabolical. And you see the rise of what is called the Democrat Socialist Party, or Democrat Socialists of America. But, here's the other part. If you just step back for a minute and you look at what all the warnings were by all of the people who were former Soviets, former Cubans, former Chinese. If you look at what is in the book Karl Marx wrote, I don't mean Das Kapital, the Communist Manifesto, and you look at what he had to implement. You had to first implement taking away the dignity through earning and inducing feudalism, And you know what that is? That's the number 2 plank. That's the progressive tax. And if you look at it from the standpoint of somebody how I grew up, where you're not easy to find jobs. You find a job and it's not great. It might be mediocre. And that first check you get, right? And it takes, I'm going back years, takes the money out, and then you got to pay the things, and before you know it, you're broke again, right? You're working, you get your paycheck, and you're broke, and you're broke, and you're broke, and you're broke. Last week, a friend of mine who got caught up in this, and when I say a friend of mine, he was the smartest among us. And when we start out, when you're 18 and you go to work, right, you lose money, basically. You make $80, $90, $100. I'm going back to the 80s. And a relative of his was on the government dole, and he used to tell this kid, his name was Joe, what are you dumb? You're going to go to work, going to work 8 hours, you're going to be like these 2 idiots, me and my other friend. And at the end of the day, you're going to blow your money on whatever. Here, the family's got a nice little apartment building. You live in the garden apartment. You go to Social Security, you tell them you get depressed. And the next thing you know, and he did that. And he died last week, my age, in his late 50s, in a convalescent home. Never lived. Because first he had to surrender his dignity. He had to surrender. In order to be a ward of the state, in order to get any kind of government help, you must first surrender any opportunity you may have the ability to take advantage of. It is a system built on first stealing their money, second, stealing their dignity in order to be in the system. So you've built the perfect zombie to be a useful idiot of a system that politicians steal your money when you have hundreds of abandoned towns in California, 82 in Illinois, and 100 in Michigan. If you really wanted to solve the homeless problem, wouldn't you just say, go to this address, grab yourself an apartment, and get a job and bring the town back to revitalize it? Wouldn't you first do that in a country that's only 6% developed? And in all these Democrat states, you have hundreds of towns that are completely abandoned. You don't need a brick. You don't need bricklayers or plumbers or anything. Just turn the switch back on. Don't you think if you really wanted to solve it, you'd solve it?
Well, you know what? We were able to solve it, quote unquote, when Xi Jinping came to, San Francisco to visit Governor Newsom. We were able to solve it when Karen Bass brought the Olympics in, and in L.A., and we were able to solve it temporarily when Katie Wilson needed the mayor of Seattle needed to host the World Cup. It's crazy. You're exactly right. These people don't want to solve it. They're not willing to admit to their failed policies, to failure, and they're not willing to get behind this administration's reforms to this system, which are to the president issued an executive order last year, and money is going to start flowing at the end of this year, beginning of next year, for homelessness. You need to prioritize mental health treatment, prioritize funding for drug and alcohol counseling. You need to do this in transitional housing, communal settings. You need to clear encampments that are dangerous for those living in the encampments and those living around them. If you want to continue to receive federal money, which is the largest source of homelessness funding, you must, as a community, be doing all of these things and showing the federal government that you're producing people who are on their way, if not all the way, towards self-sufficiency. And it's no longer going to be just automatic renewing of grants as it was under Obama and Biden administrations. There is going to be outcomes, accountability demanded. The money you need to show where you spent money instead of, all these audits that happen in California is a great example. $24 billion they can't account for. LA can't account for another $5 billion. I mean, it's craziness.
Michele, it's $24,000 million. That's how much money that is. $24,000 million. I mean, the other thing too is there's a scandal here with him. Aside from the fact the benign, thousands of millions that are stolen, there's a specific scandal, and I don't just mean the wife being a recipient of NGO money, although that's a pretty big one. The tiny home scandal is really unbelievable. What is it, 800 million? Right? 800 million for some ridiculous amount, like 1,200 tiny homes. And they gave them this money how many years ago? They don't have one? Nothing? You don't have a tiny home? I mean, these people have to go to prison if you're going to detour this. And the whole thing about Gavin Newsom and the Democrats and the problem, well, it also couldn't exist if you didn't have the cartels free to move the fentanyl and dope about the country. So Trump has kind of taken that on as well. So that has to be putting a little hitch in the giddy up. I mean, after all, they're killing a lot of these rat bastard drug dealers, aren't they? And they're making it a little bit more difficult for them. Notice how they couldn't have one without the other, right? You can't solve homelessness without solving the drugs, can you? Did I stupefy you?
No, sorry, it cut out for a second.
No problem.
No, you're exactly right. The Trump administration is coming at this from multiple angles, including closing the borders and ensuring that the people that are allowed to come here are here lawfully, but also are following our laws. That's number one. But number two, saying that the system, as it was designed by President Obama, has clearly failed. We need to head in a very different direction. And as the largest funder of homelessness, putting money into that direction, that new direction, which is all about rehabilitation and recovery. But the way the system has been for so long is that we have paid for and accepted, tolerated failure. And that's just not going to happen any longer under this administration, thankfully so.
Well, you know what else I think we always have to put in the mix? One of the main components of why you got started. I mean, after all, you got started. Homelessness among women and children. Now, I remember many years ago, the bulk reason of that is because they were often linked to scumbag, low-life men who would beat the women, right? Abuse the kids. You know what's fascinating, too? I remember back in the 70s, there were very little laws for that, right? Men could beat their wives. It was a young lawyer out of New York by the name of Jeanine Pirro who started the first domestic laws in the country. So I can't help but love the fact that even though she doesn't look her age, but she's old. And now she's in a position that can really do something about it. And all of these women who are beat by men, who are abused by boyfriends, all of the kids who are abused, all of the laws we now have to take advantage and at least have some repercussions comes from this very, very important person named Jeanine. She gets no credit for it. She doesn't even mention it herself. Very few people are even aware of it. But there is federal prosecution for these scumbags. In fact, if there were only state prosecution for the men who beat women and abuse kids, the pedophiles out there, we could really put damage. So you're facing that in these Democrat areas as well. I mean, after all, the predators, the wife beaters, the face punchers in these Democrat areas, they're protected by government in Democrat areas. So you really aren't going to solve this problem if Democrats are in charge of prosecution in any form, if they're in charge of government in any form. You really can only solve this place where Democrats are not in charge. Kind of like opening a business, isn't it, Michele?
Well, I'll tell you one thing to underscore what you've just shared is under current policy, again, policy that is being changed by this administration, you have to house you cannot discriminate in this housing that you provide for life. So families, and many are, in the program I ran, which was for homeless women and children, 78% of our women, close to 78%, were victims of domestic violence, and our kids. Under this current policy, again, the one the administration is changing, you cannot discriminate who goes in that housing. So they are housed in apartments that are next door to people who have actually perpetrated domestic violence on their own partners. It's crazy, crazy stuff. And that's another thing this administration is putting an end to. It's just ridiculous.
Michele, if I ever do stage my own insurrection and take control of the government, I'm going to hire you to solve this, okay?
I'd love to join you, Shaun. Thank
you so much, Michele Steeb. I always appreciate you making time for me. Give the website one more time where people can keep an eye on everything you do.
You bet. MichelleSteeb.com. And the book is Answers Behind the Red Door, Battling the Homeless Epidemic on Amazon.
Thank you. Good luck. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Shaun. Okay, you too.
We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $283. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. See Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com as someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They